Have you ever felt like your ability to just sit down and concentrate has completely vanished? Well, you're not imagining it. And what if I told you the reason has almost nothing to do with your willpower and absolutely everything to do with that device in your hand? Let's get into it. For years, we've all been fed this idea that being distracted is a personal failure. You know, if you just tried a little harder, if you just had more discipline, you could focus. But the research is telling us something completely different. It's telling us that idea, it's one of the biggest, most damaging lies of the digital age. So here's a pretty startling fact. Symptoms that look an awful lot like ADHD, trouble focusing, being impulsive, feeling constantly distracted, they're showing up everywhere, in everyone, even in people who don't have a clinical diagnosis. This isn't just a hunch, it's a huge observable trend. And this right here gets to the absolute core of it. The problem isn't some flaw inside your head. It's not a moral weakness. The problem is the digital environment our brains are now forced to live in 24/7. Okay, so where is this environmental problem actually coming from? Well, it's coming from the very design of the tools we use every single day. Our phones, our apps, they are not built to help us focus. In fact, they are precision engineered to do the exact opposite. Researchers actually have a name for this whole pattern. They call it micro-usage. And here's the wild part. The goal of these apps isn't to get you to spend an hour straight scrolling. No. The real goal is to get you to open it for just 30 seconds, but 100 times a day. It's all about the frequency of use, not the duration. And how do they pull this off? Well, it's a few key techniques. You've got the constant notifications, yanking you out of whatever you're doing. You've got the infinite scroll, which means there's literally no natural stopping point. There are the instant feedback loops, likes, comments that give you that tiny little reward hit. And, of course, the variable rewards. Sometimes you see something amazing, sometimes you don't. That's the exact same psychological hook that makes a slot machine so addictive. So what is all this actually doing to our brains, like on a biological level? This is where the science gets really, really clear. These design choices aren't just a little annoying. They are actively draining your mental resources, which, by the way, are finite. So back in the 90s, some foundational research showed that our attention isn't just one single spotlight. It's actually a system of 3 different brain networks. You've got the alerting network, which is kind of like your lookout. There's the orienting network, which physically shifts your focus to new things. And then there's the big one, the executive control network, which helps you make decisions and stay on task. Now, here is the crucial connection. Modern apps put almost all of their strain on just 2 of those networks. Every single notification forces your orienting network to go, hey, look at this. And every single time you try to ignore that buzz or that pop-up, you are taxing your executive control network. These 2 systems are just in a constant state of overdrive. Which leads us to a really fascinating question. You'd think that ignoring a notification is a win, right? You successfully defended your focus. Your willpower won. Well, a pretty landmark study found something completely different and honestly kind of depressing. So researchers found that when people got notifications and actually looked at them, their performance on whatever they were working on went down. Okay, no surprise there. But here's the real shocker. When they got notifications and successfully ignored them, their performance still went down by almost the same amount. And this finding reveals everything. The very act of resisting a distraction uses up the exact same precious mental energy that you need to actually focus. It's a total lose-lose situation, and it creates this destructive feedback loop in our brains. Let's just walk through this chain of events. It all starts with those high-frequency pings and buzzes from the user interface. This forces your brain into constant attention shifting. To fight that, you have to chronically use your willpower, your inhibitory control. But because it's happening all the time, your attention resources never ever get a chance to recover. And that leads directly to the amplification of those ADHD-like symptoms we talked about at the beginning. And if you take one thing away from all of this, let it be this. The main culprit is not the total number of hours you spend looking at a screen. It's the number of times per hour your attention is hijacked and forced to switch. It's the density of those switches that's draining your mental battery. So once you understand this, it changes everything. It means we have to completely rethink how we approach concentration and technology and even personal responsibility. It points us toward a new way forward. See, the old myth was the focus is just a skill you practice. The new reality, backed by actual neuroscience, shows us that concentration is a finite resource. It's like a battery, and it's being systematically drained by the design of our digital world. Now, the good news
is that a design problem can have design solutions. Just imagine if notifications were only delivered twice a day in a batch. Imagine if social media feeds actually ended. Imagine apps that were designed to give your brain a break and let it recharge. This isn't some far-off fantasy, it's just about changing the priorities of the design.
We have to stop thinking of our phone as just a simple, neutral tool. It's not. It is a powerful piece of social infrastructure that, by its very design, decides how your brain's limited resources get spent. And right now, it's spending them almost entirely on distraction.
And that leaves us with one last massive question. This isn't about blaming you or me or anyone for their lack of focus anymore. It's about asking a much bigger question. If we know our tools are fundamentally reshaping how our minds work, who exactly is responsible for making sure they're designed for our well-being?